Hi, everyone, and welcome to joining us today. We are super excited. We have Eric and Keri here, who are co-deans of the Vanguard Business Academy. They are outstanding educators. I've heard them speak before. They have a ton of knowledge in this industry, and they're just super smart, and they are here to go over some things that they've been working on pretty much forever. So welcome, guys.
Hey, thanks for having us.
I know in your background, you talked about, I'm just looking for it real quick here. It wasn't exactly the most detailed about how you guys became Vanguard Business Academy co-deans. So let's start kind of with that before we dive into our topics today.
That's awesome.
Okay, yeah, I'll give you our background. So Eric and I are both hairdressers by trade. Eric was also an educator for Paul Mitchell years ago. When he first started becoming a hairdresser, he got into the education side, and mainly because he wanted to be around people who were doing what he wanted to do, right? And so it was an avenue to help him to grow. So that's why he joined the education team with Paul Mitchell. I didn't do hair very long. We started our family, and so I started having babies, and so I stayed home, several years having babies.
Good Lord.
Yeah, and so I got back into the industry after, we had 4 kids, and so after I had all my babies, I got back into it in a salon that Eric was working in that needed front desk help. And so I ended up working on the desk side, and I ended up really loving that side of it. I love the whole customer service piece, and so I ended up staying on that end, and then we eventually opened our own salon, and I became the salon manager just by default because I knew the front end, right? But I really didn't know anything about running a business. And so Eric was a very busy hairdresser, and we had, in the business that we owned, he had 2 partners. It was Eric and 2 partners who owned the business, and they were all 3 Paul Mitchell educators, all 3 very busy hairdressers, and the salon was very busy, and the money was coming in, but it was going out just as quick as it was coming in. And as the salon manager, I was struggling with that because, we'd see the checkbook go up, the balance, and then payroll would come and bam, it would go all the way back down, and it was just like a roller coaster like that. And so I knew there had to be a better way. I just didn't know what that was. And so I started searching out business education. And I had to figure out what's going on here and how do we really run this business so that we see a profit, we're not struggling like that. So we started doing that, and we started going to business classes and getting business education. And that really turned our business around. Once we learned everything that we were supposed to know about running a business, it really turned our business around. And that led us to me accepting a position with Salon Business Strategies in Connecticut. And we ended up moving our family up to Connecticut, worked for Salon Business Strategies. Eric was doing just Paul Mitchell education at the time. And then eventually he stopped doing the education and came to work at Strategies as well. And so we did coaching, consulting, seminars, business seminars for, salon owners, managers, front desk staff, all that. And we did that for 15 years in Connecticut. And then our kids grew up, and they eventually all went off to school, and 3 of them came down to Louisiana to go to college because it's home, right? And so eventually we found ourselves alone in Connecticut. And
awesome, by the way.
And so we had 3 kids living in Louisiana, and so we thought, now it's time to go home, right? And so
well, let me clarify that. Keri said that's your stuff in the box on the left. It's up to you if you want to put it in the truck, but I'm going. Right.
Yeah, it didn't happen exactly that way, but we did make the decision to move back to Louisiana. And when we did, we ended up reconnecting with Mark Palama, who is the owner of Vanguard Salon Systems. And we have schools here, Paul Mitchell schools here in Louisiana, and we have a distributor, and we have stores. And so he was excited that we were coming home because we had a relationship with him before because we owned a Paul Mitchell focused salon, and Eric was his director of education for the education team. So anyway, he was excited we were coming home. He said, come on back. He said, we're going to figure it out. Let's, and so that's when we decided to start. He was always doing some business education, but he's so busy, he really didn't have the time to do it. So he put us in charge of that. And so that's what led us back to Louisiana and Vanguard Business Academy.
That's it. All right.
In a nutshell.
In a nutshell. That's Keri in a nutshell. Yeah, that's how we ended up here. Keri and I have fortunately have been office mates for 20 plus years, over 20 years. We share an office. She's on that side, I'm on this side. You can't see her side, and I won't show it to you because it's not as clean as my side. But we've done it, and people go, well, how can you work together and live together and all this other stuff? We're focused on the same things, and it makes it easy, and it made it really easy. Plus, look at her. I'm not stupid, We're
better together.
Yeah, way better together. So it works out really great. And we're fortunate that we get to be able to do that we get to spend all this time together and work with salons. That's the most rewarding part, Sean, is that we get to work with salons that are on their path, whatever their path is. And I always say we may not have the solution, but we will have a solution, which I don't believe there's a one size fits all. I don't believe that you should take whatever you need to take a solution that's going to fit you. We'll have a solution, but it may not be the solution, but it may get you towards yours, whatever that may be. And that's the most rewarding part for us, to work with salons and stylists that are on their journey and just be a small piece of the puzzle. We know that we play a small role, and I'll share with you why. Is we don't take credit or accept responsibility for your success or your failures. Those are 100% yours, right? We may have a conversation and you go off and do something with it. I can't take credit for that because you had to go off and do something. I also can't take responsibility. So if I'm not going to take the credit, I can't take the responsibility either, right? Sometimes we can't cherry pick those things. We got to be all in or all, because if I'm going to take the credit, then I got to say, yeah, I worked with a salon and they failed miserably, right? We can't just pick and choose. We got to go that way.
Yeah, well, the thing is, it all comes down to action,
right?
And so we can talk with salon owners or managers, even stylists, and give them a lot of good ideas and things that they can do in their business to help them to grow. But if they don't actually go back and do anything with it, then it's the action piece. And some people do go back and they're real good at putting in systems and doing everything that they need to do, or even taking one thing that speaks to them and working on that. And then other people say, oh yeah, that's a great idea, and then they never do anything. And either side, you see the results, and so it's really the action. You got to put some action behind it, and a lot of people are scared of doing that because it's out of their comfort zone, and it means change. It means doing something different, and so that's when we see a lot of times the fear will paralyze people from taking those steps.
That's right, 100%. Well said, Keri.
I agree. So you definitely have the knowledge and experience for sure. So I'm glad that we're going to talk about, the profit generator that you guys have and the 7 distinct centers of that. I think that is brilliant. I think a lot of times salon owners or managers just throw a number out there. I want profit. I just want profit. But, there's not a real tangible way in their mind to track it or to increase it. And you guys have brilliantly listed out 7 of them. So I'd love to just kind of go through them.
Yeah, and before we jump in, I'll share my screen. But before we do that, you touched on such a great thing, is that profit. People go, I want profit. Well, profit's not cash, right? Profit is not cash. Profit is a byproduct of your behaviors. So it's a lagging indicator. So what are you doing to drive profit? Because your profit and loss statement, you can't run it till the end, till you have all this other data to see if, and then you run it through the filter to see if there's any left over. Well, you can get on the front side of it and lead it so that you ensure that you have profit, which I'll share this really quick because that's exactly what we're talking about with the profit center and the profit generator. Can you see it now, Sean?
Can you see our screen?
Yep.
Perfect.
Okay, so the visual here is what we call the profit generator. And the profit generator consists of these 7 different areas that we call profit centers. And each one of those profit centers are, it's one of these images here. So I'm gonna go through them so you know what they are. Starting at the top, the yellow one, that's reservation desk. And then going clockwise, it's styling station. You have a question?
All I see right now is the background of your computer.
Okay.
Oh, am I on the wrong one? Let me share again. How's that?
There we go.
Okay. So starting with the yellow one.
So profit generator and the 7 profit centers. So starting at the top with the yellow one, that's reservation desk. These are called profit centers. And reservation desk, and then going clockwise, styling station, color bar, wash house, toolbar, take home, and social commerce. So these are the 7 areas of the business that you can generate revenue, right? And so these, if you're familiar with Paul Mitchell, Paul Mitchell years ago had the service marketing, 6 economies, service marketing. Well, at Vanguard, we get everything we get from, everything we do, we get from Paul Mitchell. And so we took the 6 economies and we first said, well, we need to add one. And because they didn't have anything with social commerce, and that's huge now. And so we added social commerce, and we call it social commerce and not social media, because social media is about making friends. Social commerce is about making money, right? And so, so we just take what we get from Paul Mitchell and we kind of make it fit for us at Vanguard. So, and instead of calling them 6 economies, we call them profit centers, because we really need to focus on profit, right? It's one thing to generate revenue, but it's another thing to have some left over at the end of the day.
That's right. And to tie into what Keri's sharing is that the one thing to keep in mind is that even though reservation desk, styling station, color bar, wash house, toolbar, take home, and social commerce, they sound like locations in the salon. It's not about the geographic location, but it's about the behavior that drives that profit center. Because we hear it all the time that salon goes, well, I don't have a toolbar. So our next question is, how many stations do you have? Well, I have 8. I said, you should have 8 toolbars, right? You should, and if the color bars taught us anything, it's not about the location of the color bar, about how big your color bar is. Because let's be honest, the only reason why a color bar came out of the dispensary was so we'd have better color conversation. If we're not having better color conversations, the color bar is not working. Because if you think the fixture is enough, you're missing the boat. So we focus on the behaviors that drive that. So it's not about the geographic location. Reservation desk is not about what the reservationist does up front, but it's about the stylist interaction with the reservation desk and what are they expected to do at that point in the service. So that's where it gets to be a little different. We look at it just more holistically. And then we said, what would happen if you put metrics on these things? If you put benchmarks on these things, could we really drive sales? Let me show you what happens.
Yeah, well, the big thing with the benchmarks is because it's, we were talking about these different areas and, the profit centers, but people are like, okay, that's great, but where should I be? What do I need to do? What's the goal? What are we shooting for? So that's when we came up with the benchmarks. Right. And so here's what you should be shooting for in each one of these areas. So the first one, reservation desk, the benchmark is 60% pre-booking. So customer comes in today, we need them to book their next appointment, and we need them to do that at a rate of 60%.
Yep. The next one, styling station. And we look at styling station, it's an increase on your average service ticket by 10% year over year. Increasing your average ticket by 10% year over year. If I'm a stylist, if I increase my average ticket by 10% year over year, without a price increase, very key, without a price increase by upselling and things like that, if I increase that, I'm basically saying that I'm going to make 10% more money next year. If I hold the same amount of guests without doing anything, if I just focus on that, I'm going to make 10% more next year, the year after. It's just going to keep going. That's without adding any new clients, right? It's being able to see that.
Yeah, and also another thing is with the benchmarks, we like to make it easy for stylists to understand. So 60% pre-book and 60% is easy. It's 6 out of 10. So 6 out of your 10 6 out of 10 customers who come in need to book their next appointment, right? And then with the styling station, a 10% increase, if your average ticket is $50 this year, next year it needs to be $55, right? And so, you know, we try to explain it in a simple way so they understand it, because most stylists don't want to talk about numbers. They're like, no, I'm not a math person, right? But they all want to talk about money. And so we try to always bring it back to that, you know, and how they can make more money. So the next benchmark is for color bar, and the benchmark is 50% of your hair services should be in the form of a color service. So 50% means if I did $1,000 in services, 500 of that should represent color services. And we kind of look at that two ways, because we like to look at it in the dollar amounts first, because we want to get that in line. But if somebody charges really high prices for their color, they could get to that a lot quicker and easier. So once you get to 50% in that dollar amount, then we like to switch it to number of people. So if you had 10 people come in this week, 5 of them should get color, right?
And that's where it really shifts. It's really being staying focused. The next one, wash house, probably one of my personal favorites, because wash house is like found money, right? It's like sticking your hand in a jacket that you hadn't worn in a while and you pull out a $10 bill. It's the same money dance, whether it's $1 or $100. You do it, you find it in the dryer. The wash house is found money. What are you doing? It's every guest's favorite part of the service, right? They love it. Now, but we put a benchmark on it, and the benchmark is 20% of your service transactions should be in the form of a treatment. Imagine 20% of your service transactions should be in the form of a treatment. Just taking advantage of it. And that's where it really makes a difference. It's looking at it. That's where the profit center and the profit generator as a whole makes such a big difference when you lean into it, because you're focused on all the areas of the salon that generate revenue. And let's be honest, in our current climate, we can't afford to let any of these, they're no longer optional. These are gotta do's. I can't say, oh, I'm not going to sell retail anymore. Oh, I'm not going to do treatments. Oh, I'm not going to sell toolbar. I don't know how many clients are going to come in this month. I need that client, that one client to come in to be a party of all 7 of these. And every guest has to run through that. If we do that, we're just making sure our future is more secure. That's where it is. We're looking at it.
One of the things I love about the wash house is 20% is only 2 out of 10. Right? And so when you look at that, only 2 out of 10 people to get a wash house treatment, you know, and then when we're speaking with stylists, we always ask them, how many people need a treatment? And they're like, everybody, right? And so if everybody needs one, then how easy is it to get just 2 out of 10, right? And so most people aren't even doing 2 out of 10. Yeah. And so it's just really looking at the opportunities that you have in the different areas and taking advantage of those things. Yeah. And then the next one is toolbar. So the benchmark for toolbar is 5% of your take-home transactions should be in the form of a tool purchase. So 5% of the people who purchase take-home, not of everybody who comes in, but just of the take-home purchases. So the people who purchase take-home, 5% of them should purchase a tool. So 5% is 1 in 20. So 1 of every 20 people who purchase take home should purchase a tool.
That's it. I mean, 1 in 20. And it just needs to be on purpose. Now, I'll share with you this, just by having the benchmark, it changes your level of expectation. Mm-hmm. It changes your level of expectation. Without it, you don't know, well, I sell some every now and then. But having a benchmark, now you have something to measure yourself up to. And that's what makes a difference. The next one, and we look at take home differently. And the benchmark is 35% of your guests buying. And we look at it as a percentage of people buying, not the dollar amount. Typically, the industry uses retail as a percentage of total sales or retail as a percentage of service. Well, those are lagging indicators. Meaning if I told you, Sean, I need you to do 20% of your total sales in the form of retail, how much do you have to do?
Depends on how much service I do.
Correct, right?
You don't know ahead of time.
So you don't know. You can't say, I don't know. You can't say, because it's a trick question. Because in order to come up with what 20% of your total sales is, you need to know what you did in service sales, in retail sales, and you have to add those two together. Then you have to divide it by retail divided by the take home divided by service. to come up with a total. And that's way too much math to where I need you to be at 35% of your guest buying. So if you can count to 10, just count to 4 and you're solid.
Like
1, 2, 3, 4.
3 to 4 out of 10 would be, 3.5. 3 to 4 out of 10. If you can tell 3 to 4 out of 10 people who come in, we know 100% of them aren't going to buy, right? But 3.5, that should, I've never heard a stylist saying, "Oh, I can't do that. That's too many."
Way too much.
Right? 3 to 4 out of 10.
That's way too hard. Yeah.
When communicating with stylists, it's just they understand it so much easier than a percentage of their sales.
Yeah, that's the difference. We always say you can make any amount of money you want to make in the professional beauty industry. It's 100% reliant on your behaviors and your activities. So you can make any amount of money you want to make. It's 100% reliant on your behaviors and your activities. So if I'm tracking this, I wish I would have had this information when I was in school and just out of school. It would have fundamentally changed my life. It would have changed my trajectory so much. I would have known exactly what to do, exactly what to measure myself up to. And this is what I have to do. And the last one is social commerce. And the benchmark is 10 new guests per month. Now, that's a fluid number, and I'll Keri explain that just a minute, but 10 new guests per month. Bottom line is you could have 1,000 people like your Instagram post, but if the phone doesn't ring, it's irrelevant.
True.
If it's not helping you grow your business, if it's not putting money in the bank, how are you monetizing that? And we need to be using social to get new. But let me just pause really quick. It's not just social. It's that's just one avenue. We don't just say use social and don't go pass out business cards. You still have to go pass out business cards because you need to get a minimum of 10 new clients a month, depending on where you are in your growth. And Keri will explain that.
So like Eric said, that number is kind of fluid. 10 is a good average, and that works for a good average hairdresser who's been in the industry for a few years. We know new people right out of school, just starting their career, they need a lot more than 10 new guests per month. 10's not going to be enough for them to build their career. So their number is going to have to be higher. And we also know on the other end, veteran stylists that have been in the industry for a long time, that number is going to be a lot lower for them. They don't have room on their books for 10 new guests per month. They're lucky if they get 1 or 2 new per month. So, like Eric said, the number is going to be fluid depending on where you are in your career, but 10 works for a good average.
Yeah, which is pretty amazing. I'm going to go a little deeper just on one of them, just to for craziness, right? Let's talk hair color, right? Hair color, benchmark 50% of your hair service in the form of hair color. Now, we talked about that being the benchmark, and people go, well, God, that's kind of tough. That's hard. All it takes is a conversation. Imagine if we told every guest that came in, regardless of the service that they're in for, we just simply asked the question, what are we doing with your hair color today? If we just simply asked everybody that came in, whether they were scheduled for hair color or not, what are we doing with your hair color today? What do you think the response would be? I don't know. What do you have in mind? Do you think I can get 1 or 2 to bite?
If nothing else, it opens up that door to have a conversation about hair color, right?
Now, what if I told you that conversation, that question is roughly a $20,000 conversation? You willing to have it now?
Good conversation to have.
Right? It's a 20. Let me show you how the math shakes out because it's crazy, right? 1 additional color service per day. 1 additional color service a day. It's at an average ticket of $75. That's five times a week. We do $375 times 52 weeks a year. It's $19,500. Math is math.
And this is additional on top of what you're already doing. It's just adding 1 extra color service a day at an average of $75.
So it's could I find that? Yes, most definitely I could find that. Now, what if a client comes in? This is where the color conversation gets crazy. What if a client comes in? Let's say she's got shoulder length hair. I'll just say this, but fine, kind of a bob, tends to fall flat. She goes, my hair's always flat, right? She could be coming in for a blow dry. I want more volume, more volume. We have this great conditioning color gloss that we can put on. Just it adds a loads of shine. And if you want, we could add color to it to either enhance or counteract what you have going on. But let's just start with clear, but it's going to give your hair a little bit more body. Hold on. I just sold PM Shines.
Yep.
I just sold hair color without hair color But if you caught it, I sold hair color with the future of hair color. Because I said we could add something in it to either enhance or counteract, but today we can do just clear, right? So
next time we'll try some color.
Yeah, next time we can add a little bit to it. But it's going to give you more body. It's going to make your hair feel a little bit fuller, and it's going to last. It's going to sit on the outside of the hair. You don't have to worry about it. It's going to fade away, right? That's the beauty. I just sold hair color in seconds, but I sold hair color in a conversation that she was in for just a blow dry, right? But if we're not willing to have the conversation, then we're definitely not going to get anywhere near this $19,000. And that's where it really starts to make a difference. So we take it, we look at it very simply, but doesn't mean the concepts are simple. They make big results, but without the behavior, you're not going to get any results.
True.
Right? If I say, oh, I can't have that conversation, well, okay, just know that this is off the table. That the $20,000 is you're not going to get it. You have to find it somewhere else because it's not going to come from here. And that's where it really changes. And that's where the powerful point of it is, that it really starts to make a difference. And that's just a quick look. I mean, we could take the profit generator and the profit centers and talk about them for weeks. You know, because you just keep drilling down. And as a salon owner, that's the foundation where you should start, because that's where you go. And then you can drill down. I could take just one of them and just keep drilling down to where we role play. And hey, so-and-so is successful. Let's share her tips. And we can talk about these. These aren't and that's the key, because these aren't a one-time conversation. This has to become part of your DNA for it to work.
Every time. That's our mantra. Every guest, every time. You know, and so if we're asking everyone who comes in, what are we doing with your hair color today? It's got to be every guest, every time. You know, if we're talking about pre-booking and we're, you know, giving a recommendation of when to come back in, you know, it's every guest, every time. It's not picking and choosing. It's every guest, every time. We know we're never going to get 100%, but we have to ask 100% to be able to get to those benchmarks.
Yeah. And you know, let's be honest, we're in crazy times, right? We were having one of these with Salon, and we were talking about, I asked the question, what's changed about doing business? And we came to the realization that everything and nothing. Everything's changed, but nothing's changed. We still provide the same service, but we have the great opportunity to do things differently.
Yeah.
Right? To do things the way we want to do them, the way we need to do them. I'll give you an example just to tie into that. I don't know if you've seen the article about it, but Starbucks is pivoting. They're changing, they're opening more stores. They're closing stores, but they're opening more drive-up, walk-up stores, less community stores, right? Starbucks built their entire brand on meet you at Starbucks, right? But they know in the global, with the everything that we're going through right now, that's not their future. So they're opening up, they're starting to open up more smaller drive-through only or walk-up only locations, like akin to kiosks in airports, right? They're going to open up more of those because they know that's the future of their business. They don't need 3 times the square footage, 4 times the square footage. Think about it. You walk into a Starbucks, how much of it is just space for you to hang, and how much space do they need to work?
Wow.
And they're in high volume retail locations. So they're paying a premium right now for only using a fraction of the space. So they're having to pivot. We have to do the same things as in the professional beauty industry, but it doesn't mean we have to add other services. We just got to get better at getting better. And if we focus on the things that we're focused, that we should have been focused on along the way, it makes such a huge difference. And that's where it is. And that's where we get excited to work with salons, and because it's awesome. I love the salon community. We're the people. So it's so awesome to be able to work with them.
One other thing I want to add to this piece, about the profit generator and the benchmarks is for salon owners, if they do nothing more than introduce the benchmarks to staff, and so they have those numbers where they have something to shoot for, you know, those are the benchmarks. This is what we want to start working toward. And then the next step would be to actually track those things. Mm-hmm. And so here's where we want you to be. Let's start tracking them and see where you are. Let's look and see where you are right now with each of these. And then what can we do to start moving toward each of these benchmarks? And really, we like to recommend that they take one or two that, you know, speaks to them, something that they think that they can really work on now, and you know, focus on that one thing. Because if you throw too much at them at one time, then it can be overwhelming and they don't do anything. So let's just pick one. You know, maybe it's just, we're talking about wash house this week, you know, and we're going to see how many people we can talk to about getting treatments, and, you know, look at that and focus on that. And then, you know, maybe next month we'll move to a different one and really have a concerted focus on each one. Yep. So we can start building those habits.
I'll share with you this. We worked with this salon, large salon, and had a treatment focus, just a treatment focus. Didn't offer a promotion, didn't do anything. Just focus the team on the same goal, right? On the same thing. In 1 month, they did more treatments than they did the entire year before.
It's because everybody was focused on it.
Didn't say buy one, get one free, didn't give them anything else, just did this.
But I think they were doing like a contest or something
within the salon, yeah, with the staff, yeah. But just to focus. And it's free money, but it's whatever we focus on is what we move towards, right? We know that. It's thank God for core, right? Teaches us all these things, and that's where it is. But the most important thing is you have to build a culture that's going to support it. In this thing, you know, our good friend Neil Dukoff always says the fish stinks from the head down, right? That the fish stinks from the head down. It starts with leadership. If you're not leading it, then it's, you know, how do we put this? If you can't get your staff to staff meetings, they're having them anyway. They're just not inviting you.
They're having them in the back room without
you. And they're having staff meetings. They're 100% attended. You either want them to happen with you or without you, right? And because if you're not providing the direction, they're getting it from somebody, right? Or they're making it up as they go along. So we have to, that's, you know, if you want to keep your team engaged and energized and motivated and moving forward, it starts at the top. It starts at your leadership, and it starts with pointing the direction. People want to be a part of something larger than themselves. Nobody wants to do it alone. We're communal people. We're humans. We like to be around other people. It's so crazy that in our current climate that I don't do normal telephone calls anymore. If we got time, we can do a Zoom call, because that's like archaic to me. If we can jump on and do a Zoom call, we can interact with each other and we can engage. It's different.
Yeah, especially with being home now. You know, we're so used to traveling so much and being in front of people and being in salons, and now we can't do any of that. So we're just home. So if we have the opportunity to do a Zoom call and we can see you and we can be face to face, through Zoom, then that's so much better than being on the phone.
So, you know, in my past life, I used to spend a lot of time doing team events, go to salons to do team events to where inspire the team, help them move forward. And I used to get a lot of my title at Strategies was Vice President of Fun, Games, and Growth, right? That was my real title. It was written on a business card, and I didn't give it to myself. So I used to get calls all the time. Eric, I need a game, or I need to motivate my staff. Well, look, it's not going to happen in the next 5 minutes before your staff meeting. It's happening in 10, right? You got to put the work in every day. And if you're not putting the work in every day, then how do you know what's going to happen? So I will share this for salon owners that are listening. Your team is waiting for you to step up to be the leader they want, that they need to get to the other side. Because I go to work someplace, I need to see that what my opportunities are. And I need you to lead me to those opportunities. Now, will I like you all the time? Probably not. But hold on. If you get a personal trainer, you're not going to like them all the time anyway, but you're going to like them when you look in the mirror. You know, I may not like you all the time, but I'm gonna appreciate what you're doing because you're holding me accountable and responsible. So once we have that leader to appear, right, and that leader has to appear, and it's gonna happen in baby steps. You can't show up tomorrow and you go, I watched this video and I'm gonna be the leader that you guys need, and it's you're, by the way, I'm gonna crack down on you. You can't do it that way. Well, you can, but just know that you may be working alone, right? Because people, they're not gonna respond. You have to earn that. And that's going to come with a couple of things. You know, it's going to have to, you're going to have to model the behavior first and foremost with leadership. I'm going to have to model the behavior. I've got, if you want your team to show up early, you better beat them to work, right? I can't say you got to show up 20 minutes before your shift and I show up 30 minutes after mine.
You want them to pre-book, you need to be pre-booking. If you want them to sell more color, you need to sell more color. If you want them to fold towels, you need to fold towels.
So it's got to start with that. It's got to 100% start with that. And then we got to focus on, okay, now once I'm being the leader, then we got to unite the team on a common purpose, common goal. Guys, this is what we're trying to do. This is our goal. We want to be the best. We want to go from X to Y if it's a sales number, or I like to start even more conceptual. You know, guys, when you think of Salon XYZ, what do you think of? What do you want for us? And we unite on what that common goal is, because what does it look like if you work for a salon that's doing these things? Well, everybody there makes more money. Okay, awesome. That's, now we're moving in the right direction, because I've already got you to agree on, just by having that conversation. We did it in 20 seconds. Just by having that, I've already got you to agree that we're going to shift. And they didn't even realize it, that they were doing it. But it's got to start with, it starts first with leadership. Then we got to start with uniting the team around a common goal, a common focus. And that common focus or purpose can't shift. It's got to stay, because we agreed on what it was. What happens more often than not is that it shifts. And the moment it shifts, then I lose Keri in that shift, meaning she's still working there. How many times you know people that quit that hadn't left yet?
Nope.
Right? And I'm going to say this, and I don't want it to come out the wrong way. They were led to that. Just like they can be led out of it. Either through our actions or inactions, we got her to that point. So what am I doing to focus on bringing everybody together? And once we do that, we really start to shift our team, right? We have leadership, we have a common purpose, and then we challenge people to get to that next level, right? Base Keri, this is where you are. I think one of the most important things that every stylist should know is what their personal best is. What's your personal best? You know, if you work out, if you go to the gym, you know what your PR is, you know what your max is, you know what Usain Bolt knows what his personal best is, right? And he doesn't train to get, he's talking about thousandths of a second to get better. He's the fastest man in the world, right? He's not training to be okay. He's training to be faster because he knows what the target is. If we don't know what the target is, how do we know if we're training the correct way? How do we know what our behaviors are going to get us to that next point? And then probably one of the most underutilized thing in the professional beauty industry is building teams, because we're compensated individually. I'm compensated on the piece. I do this service, I get a piece of it. I'm compensated individually. So it's almost as though I'm in competition with my teammates, with my people I work with, right? But we need to bring people together and focus on how, as a group, can we get better together? How are we stronger together? And how can we shift to be better at that? And that's where we really get to the next level. That's next level. And I believe we need to have more shared experiences outside of work. We need to take people outside of the business so they can have shared experiences, because you know what? Let's say, Sean, you work on the other end of the salon. We see each other in passing. We don't have that much of a relationship, and I don't know that much about you, but the moment we go to a picnic, a company picnic or something out, a barbecue, whatever it is that we do together, then we get to hang out together, and wow, I actually like him. So we develop a different relationship. In that moment, those shared experiences outside of work change the way we work at work. If we never have them, we have limited scope, you know, and that's what really makes a difference. And then that all focuses on the growth. Are we moving from A to B? And am I tracking that growth? Am I tracking it to move? And That's the other thing. We do annual one-on-ones at least every 3 years. Right? We got to do them on an ongoing basis. But more importantly than us having our one-on-ones with our team, we need to encourage them to have them with themselves on a more frequent basis. By, like Keri talked before, tracking. They need to be looking at their numbers every time they get a paycheck, and we have the ability to do a one-on-one with them. Think about how powerful this would be. If in your paycheck, not only in your paycheck, but I gave you a little slip that said, and I'll share with you this, that said your paycheck, and these were your benchmarks. These were your numbers in each of these areas. Well, why'd you do that? Because these numbers drive that number. If you want the number on your check to go up, you get these numbers in line. Oh, okay, now they start to connect. Right? Now I can start to shift behavior. It's just a very simple way. But we have to keep pointing back to what drives it and what drives it. And that's what it is. This is why it's important, because that number on your check is a byproduct of your behavior, not mine. And that's why putting those things in really make a difference.
That's right. But the leadership has to be there to guide that and to, let them know what those benchmarks are, and where they are. One of the big things is, if they don't know, and that's the biggest thing that we hear is even asking, what's your best day ever? They're like,
I don't know.
I have no idea. And most people just don't know their numbers, because they're not looking at that. And they want their paycheck to be more, but they don't know what they need to do to get their paycheck to be more. And so if we can communicate the drivers, and we like to call these drivers because they drive all the numbers, right? And so if we can start communicating that with them, then they'll have an idea of what they need to do to see that paycheck to be more. Right? And so it's real important on that communication piece. And we hear owners say all the time, I wish they did more. I wish my staff, pre-booked more. I wish my staff, got more new guests. Well, what are you doing to help them with that, to guide them, let them know what those benchmarks are and how they can get there. And on the evaluation piece, Eric said we have yearly annual evaluations, every 3 years. They should be monthly. A lot of people do quarterly, but I believe they should be monthly. I believe you should look at your numbers at the end of every day, and know where you are.
Right. Yeah, it's crazy. I felt like we've been talking a bit much.
Yeah. No, I love it. I think you guys just listed off the 6 things.
Yeah.
About purpose, and you have to have challenge and camaraderie and responsibility, growth, and leadership. And I think that it just all ties into when you have that stuff and you have a motivated and inspired team, your 7 distinct profit centers that you talked about all become a working system to begin with. It really starts with your leadership and being able to motivate and inspire your team.
It's the first step to I always say the worst thing you can tell me is what you want, because I'm going to use it against you.
Hold you accountable to it.
I'm going to hold you accountable, because if you tell me, if we work together, Sean, you go, hey, I want to buy a new Mercedes. Awesome. I'm going to do whatever I can to help you, if you don't mind. If you're okay with that, I'm going to do whatever I can to help you. Whatever it takes, I'm going to help you. But also, we're in a one-on-one and we're going through your numbers. It looks like, hey, do you still want that Mercedes? Because it looks like you're working like you want a Prius, right? It's yours. I'm just going to keep shining the light back on what you want.
Love that.
It's not that, and that should be my role as a leader, because you decided what you want. And I think that's one of the most important things that salon owners should do. If you want to start down this path of shifting, is the very first exercise, simple, easy, is plan a staff meeting and have during that time, if you either do it before or you can do it then if you have enough time, and everybody builds vision boards for what they want, and then have them share them, right? They can either pre-do them, you can talk about it before for this, bring it, or we can do it as a collective group working on it together. Rip out magazines, print pictures, put it on there. We buy poster boards, we have an arts and crafts thing, and at the end of it, we present it. That is a leaping off point, because that's a bookmark in time at this point. because everyone in your team is telling you what they want, and they're looking to you to help provide it. And that's what your job is. I mean, that's what it is. If I can get to that, I'm so far down the road, because all I got to do is keep doing it. And then what I would challenge to do is, as soon as we have all these vision boards done, I would take down everything in the break room and hang up these vision boards so that they're there. And monthly, we would revisit them. Hey, how are you doing with this? What are you doing towards that? And we're going to keep focusing on that. It's a great first step, and it just reunites the team. Now, think about what that 1 hour long staff meeting would look like. Everybody's focused on the future.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's focused on the future, right? They're focused on possibilities, on not what they can't do, right? They're focused forward. Now we're winning already. Do you think we'd sell more take home at the end of that day? Most definitely. Do you think we'd sell more hair color? Most definitely. Anything. More pre-booking? Yes, we can do that, because we're just going to keep pointing to, these are the things you can do to get to that. And that's where, if you want a first step, that'd be the thing I would do. It's quick, it's easy, it's interactive. And now your staff meeting should change. You're right. It is fun, and they should change to where they should be uplifting. It should be a point to where I go to a staff meeting and everybody gets yelled at. But I go to staff meeting because that's where I learned how to get more of what's on my board.
I love it.
And I get to celebrate what's on that. That's where it really makes a difference.
I love that. So
Awesome.
as a leader with your people, we have to hear where they're at, hear what they want, and then hold them accountable to that. I love.
Yeah, and you touched on something very important. Hear where they're at, and not everyone is at the same space. And identifying that as a leader, we often say it. We don't say it to our team, but we say it to other people. I wish they'd be more like Keri. I wish Sean was more like Keri, right? We start measuring them up to each other, and that's first off, that's a recipe for failure, right? Mm-hmm. We got to identify the traits in those, but how can I get Keri to be the better version of her?
Meeting people where they are.
That's it.
Right, first and foremost, and then trying to get those shifts.
10%.
It's just 10% shift.
That's it.
I love it. Well, thank you guys.
Teaches us everything.
Thank you guys for talking about, profit and leadership and how important it is to inspire and motivate your employees. Any final words you'd like to leave us with?
You got something?
I have something. I don't know. I think when we're talking about leadership, it's everything that we've been talking about, but really, first and foremost, it's taking a look at yourself. Look in the mirror, because so many times we hear leaders say things like they complain about their staff, and then Eric likes to say, well, who hired that person? And it's them. But you gotta really take a look at yourself, and where are you, and what kind of leader are you being, and do I need to work on myself first before I can start working on my staff?
Yep, that's awesome. Perfect.
Well, yeah.
That's it. Work on yourself before you work on other people. You got to look in before you look out. I think it's such a great way to wrap this up. That's awesome.
Again, thank you guys so much for sharing your knowledge and for all the contribution you do to the beauty industry. We appreciate you, and we look forward to connecting more in the future.
Yes,
awesome.
It's our pleasure.
Thank you.
How can they get a hold of you if they want to reach out to you or they have questions? How can they find you? What's the easiest way?
Yep. Vanguard Biz Academy.com, or we are Keri at Vanguard Biz Academy, or Eric at Vanguard Biz Academy. And Keri is Keri, and Eric is ERIC.
Yeah.
At Vanguard Biz.
Those are our email addresses.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Awesome.
We'll put that information when we release this as well. So thank you guys so much. Have a great rest of your week and your day.
You did the same.
Thanks.